So let's talk about some of the basics for a minute.
Necronomicon is coming.
So as the title suggests, that this video is going to talk about circle casting. This is one of the most basic things that you would need to know in terms of any magical practice. Now you might ask why. Those of you that are new to metaphysics and working with Wicca, paganism, even the Necronomicon, what have you. Yeah, always drinking something, always burping, whatever. So, circle casting really is creating a energetic, a psychodramatic, and a mental barrier that, in a way, acts as a container for the energy that you raise in ritual, and then when that energy peaks, you send it off into the ether, so to speak, to let your spell manifest. Now, in terms of spell, the energy that you raise, which can be raised through anything from doing artwork, chanting, yelling, singing, dancing, any type of physical activity, or even meditating, any activity that raises energy, the circle that you cast is supposed to contain that until it reaches a point where where it's at its peak, and then off it goes, and you set it off. So casting a circle is really declaring the space that you are in to be sacred. It is declaring the space that you are in to be impenetrable. It sets a barrier, so to speak, in between the world in your ritual space, or in the Necronomicon terms, in the temple, and the outside. So there's a separation there. Now, a couple of rules about circle casting before I get into exactly how to do it and exactly kind of how I do it anyway. One, try to get everything that you need for your spell work, for your ritual, for everything that you are doing prior to beginning the ritual. I myself used to really suck at this, and on occasion when I have ADD or I'm in a rush, I tend to kind of screw up on this. I might leave something upstairs, and then I got to run upstairs and I got to get it, and we'll talk about that later. But when you are going to do a ritual, try to make sure that you have everything that you need in terms of like the book that you're going to use, any scripts that you're going to use, any materials, from candles, paper, cords, what have you, already within that ritual space that you are going to use. So, for example, a lot of the rituals that I do in my house are done here in the living room. And I try to make sure that I have everything that I need on my mandel, which would be over in this direction, which you guys can't see, but, I'm just trying to go along with the narrative here. So you have everything within the space that you are going to declare as sacred. Now, casting a circle, let's talk about casting a circle for beginners. So for beginners, what really, really helps is, take a little sidetrack here. What really helps with casting circles is practicing meditation and visualization. You might ask why, because some people, when they get into meditating or trying to visualize things, they're like, oh, this is hard, screw it, I give up. When you are casting a circle, remember, the more real that you can make it in your mind, the more easy it is to manifest. If I just point my wand or my finger and I'm like, I declare a barrier over here, and then I draw a circle, right? If I just do it that simply, that's not putting enough intention into it. That's not putting enough, if you go with metaphysical magical theory, that's not really putting enough energy into it to make a barrier that nothing can cross and that can contain all of your energy that you are raising. So what you want to do is practice meditation mainly to gain focus. Practice visualization so you can actually see what you are doing. And I know that this is hard for some people. My fiance, who was in one or two videos from a while back, she has a hard time visualizing things, so she feels these things. And I'm very, very, very good at visualizing things. I can look over here and I can instantly picture something there as if it's real, because I've had a ton of practice with it. So when I cast circles, I can actually see the energetic barrier that's kind of like a force field from Star Trek, basically, or it's some kind of smoke that just encompasses the area that I am in. And that comes with practice. Takes an awful long time for other people, takes a short time for some people. Just give it a shot, practice it, and if you try it and it doesn't work, don't say, screw it, I'm going to try something else. Keep trying it, because with hard work comes the payoff. So anyway, practice meditation and visualization, and once you get proficient in those things, then you can really start. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't do any spells and you can't cast any circles until you can see them. The more that you practice it, and the more that you say, I am going to see this barrier that I make, then the more likely you are to see it. And especially with the more practice that you get with both meditation, visualization, and practicing casting circles, the easier it's going to become. So, I debated using my video camera for this, but I think I'm just going to do a chat in terms of explaining it, because it's not like you guys can see what I can see through the video. Anyway, so in most traditional, or in the tradition of the Necronomicon, when you start to cast a circle, or in the Necro, they describe using salt to create a circle, right? So you have a ton of salt, fantastic. That speaks to the idea of using a physical thing to represent your barrier first. Now, what does this mean? Well, I mean, I have a hardwood floor here, so if I wanted to make a circle of flour or salt like the Necronomicon suggests, then I can do that. I can sprinkle salt on the floor and go around, and then I can create a circle that way. I can sprinkle flour and go around, and I can make a circle that way. Or I can use my finger or my wand or my athame, and I can point it, direct my intention that I am declaring a barrier between my own inner world and the world outside of me, that is the space that I am in, and everything else. And I declare that this space is going to be a container, and I visualize the energy coming from me out through the tool that I am using and onto the floor. And I see it as, usually for me, I either see it as a red, purple, or blue light. Lately, it's kind of been purplish blue, and I see it emanating from the tool that I am using. It flows out, it strikes the floor, and then I move in a circle. Depending on how big I want to make it, I could walk around in a circle as I'm making it huge, or I could just simply turn as I go, going from north to east to south to west to north. Now, a lot of other, some other traditions, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but I think that mainly, or mostly Celtic, or some other traditions, they start in the west and they end in the west. And technically, with the Aurelia text and those rituals there, you would start in the west and end in the west. But technically, for books, for the rituals of calling or the gate walking rituals, you would start in the north and end in the north. A note on the rituals of calling, whether or not you use a circle is really up to you, because I think that circles kind of put a barrier in between you and the spirit, because when you were trying to manifest that spirit has to come through that energetic barrier that you declared nothing could come through. So if you don't cast a circle, you are open. When you are doing the magical rituals, the energy that you raise can attract the Idimu, the Utukhul, or the Gula, and the Alu, which those are all Necronomicon type spirits that are attracted to that kind of energy. And if you don't have a circle, yeah, they can show up. They can, and they will make they might make nondescript noises. They might make noises that you can't explain. They might move objects or whatever. Great. If that happens and you haven't cast a circle, you might be in danger. But the key to that is whether or not you fear that, because something energetic can only affect you if you, in your energy inside, allows it to. And the way that those things get in is through your fear. So have no fear and you'll be fine. I've gotten tons of emails from people about how am I supposed to stay safe? If you don't have confidence that you're going to handle something, then don't do it. Because if you don't have confidence that you are going to be safe, then you are going to let something in, or not 100% of the time. There is a possibility that you will let something in. That depends on whether or not something is attracted to your rituals, whether or not you raise enough energy to attract something, and whether or not they actually find you appetizing. If you have something that they can take from you. Anyway, so you can go around and you can cast a circle with your energy using your tool, and then you raise the energy inside the circle, and then when you have, when you have done your big psychodrama thing, whether it's dancing, painting, singing, chanting, screaming, drumming, making music, whatever, then you send it off. And for the most part, I go along with the to know, to will, to dare, and to be silent pyramid idea. When I am doing a ritual, I see the energy going straight up through the circle, because that's that just kind of works for me. So let me go this way. So if you feel uncomfortable with being able to use a tool and point it and declare a boundary that you can see in your mind, which will come into reality through the energetics that you use. Remember, everything starts on the inside and goes to the outside. It starts in the mental plane and eventually gets to the physical. So if that is hard for you, there are several options that you can do. You can use salt, flour, or other objects to represent the circle. There are other rituals. I think I have, it's called The Witch's Bible upstairs. Not technically my book, but it was left here. They say that you can, in that book, which was printed decades ago, it says that you can use a cord to represent a circle. I could take the giant boating rope that I have upstairs. I could lay it on the floor and I could make a circle out of it all through this living room. And then when I point my wand at it, I see a physical object that I can put my energy into that will, act as a catalyst, as a conduit for my energy, and therefore nothing can cross that rope. So you can use a physical object. The next level up is to visualize something. I had a friend, when she started to work with paganism, when she casted a circle, she saw the entire circle as a curtain from a stage, because she was a theater dance major in college, and that's something that was very it was easy for her to visualize. It was easy for her to see because she had seen it a million times. Now, the visualization really doesn't matter as long as you feel it, you see it, and you know you're protected. Now, I remember earlier in the video I talked about whether or not you leave things outside of the circle, try to have everything that you need in the circle when you do it. And here's a little trick for, like, if I'm in the middle of a ritual and I'm like, oh man, I could really use my ocarina for this, so I want to go upstairs. You gotta create an energetic opening in the circle. Now, traditionally, what some traditions will tell you is that you can use your athame, or your ritual knife, to cut a hole in the circle from the floor all the way up and around. You got to make the space big enough for you to fit through, up and around, and then back down to the floor. And then when you exit the circle, you got to turn around and you got to seal that barrier up. So you redraw it going the opposite way. So if I opened it going from right to left, then when I exit the circle and I turn around, I got to go from right to left again, which from the inside of the circle would be left to right. It's like a zipper. It's a zipper in a tent. You go one way to close it, then you go one way to open it, then one way to close it. You get it? So then I would run upstairs, I'd grab my thing, and I'd come back. This, from my perspective, is really where energetics or visualizations really help, and visualizations that you can grow with, and that you know and that you understand, and that you can see and feel. So from my own personal perspective, I am a huge Legend of Zelda fan. So I tend to, or at least I used to, I really haven't exited a circle in ritual in a really long time. So this is going back a couple of years. But when I would need to exit a circle, I would stand at the edge of the circle, close my eyes, and visualize kind of the little cutscene-esque thing in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, you name it, where you would see a door go up, and I would even hear that noise in my head. I would hear it go up, I would run out, and then I would hear it close, and kind of see it in my mind close behind me. And to that, and to me, that would open up the energy for me to get through, and then close it instantly right after. That might work for somebody else if you practice it and if it feels really good to you. Or you might come up with something else. Like my friend who visualized the curtain thing, she might have seen, had she had to exit a circle, see kind of pushing the curtain over, you run through it, and then it flows back shut. So circle casting really has to do with energetically pushing your intent to an area to keep everything that you are doing secret, silent, and within your own space. That also helps with getting rid of distractions. I might be in a room with a bunch of different things, but when I am in a ritual, I don't pay attention to anything outside of that circle. Even if I see it, I don't pay it any mind. And I have plenty of furniture around here with plenty of stuff on it. But that, to me, doesn't even register in my head. I might see it, but that just kind of seems like the background in a movie. Like when you see a movie and it kind of focuses on the forefront, but everything in the back is fuzzy. That's kind of how it seems to me. And take the things that I'm saying in this video kind of to heart and, or take it with a grain of salt. Try to practice these things that I'm talking about with only staying focused in the ritual area that you're in, opening and closing appropriately, casting the circle either with a physical object, whether it be a rope, salt, flour, or with your own energy. And just give it a shot. There was a time for like 6 months straight when my, in a previous relationship when I was in, when she would go to a class late at night from 7 until 9 o'clock, and I would spend my time in my room practicing circle casting just because I wanted to get that good at it. I would go and make a circle, and I would sit in it, and I would feel the energy. And then if I wanted to run around and do other things, I would open it and I would shut it and I would just leave the circle there. And then I would see if when I came back, I could feel that transition between the mundane world and that sacred space that I created. So with circle casting, I hope I gave a couple of good tips and tricks. And I hope that this makes sense to some people. It gives some people some good ideas when it comes to practicing these things, because especially circle casting and declaring your space to be yours and not being distracted by anything outside of it and really just finding yourself in your own mental space. And this is what the Necronomicon terms the night of time, by the way, which Adar is the master of. He's the master of the night of time, which would be that ritual space. So when you reach the Adar gate, you would really gain a proficiency in being able to, stay focused and stay in a spiritual mode, whether it be in your own home, in a circle, or elsewhere. So that was a little bit of a segment, but you guys kind of know I don't do this with a script anymore. I just kind of go with what I need to say and what I feel is relevant to the discussion. So I hope I didn't leave anything out. Like I said, I don't have a script, so sometimes I might get a little off track or whatever. But I hope that this really helps people kind of understand circle casting. And for those of you that are proficient in Magick or are, consider yourselves to be good, moderate or excellent at it, I hope this kind of helped give a better perspective. And I hope that everybody learned something from this. I continue to work on my manuscript. I'm really kind of delving into a bunch of different things when it comes to the order of the different gates that you go in, because you have the gates of the Zonai, and then you have the Azonai, and then you have the gates of Anu, Enlil, and Enki, and Arzir. Arzir and Ganzir are kind of special in their own ways in there. So that's actually what I was poring over this weekend, and I'm still trying to kind of figure all this stuff out just to make sure that it makes sense, it works with the system, and that it works. So that's what I'm working on with my manuscript. Presently, my dad's still reading through it. He hasn't gotten back to me with any grammatical errors or prose errors, which probably means I'm doing pretty good. But everything's going according to plan, I guess, and I just thought I'd give everybody an update. I seem to update my manuscript of Lamadou Dingir every time I make a video now, and let me know if you guys like that. Let me know if there's anything else that you want me to make a video on in terms of Necronomicon knowledge and magical mechanics. So we'll see where we go from here, and I wonder what my next vid's going to be about. Anyway, good hunting.